Hey yo, what is up YouTube? So in this video, I'm gonna talk about my ACL tear experience, how it happened, what it was like going through the whole surgery, and then of course the rehab process, which takes a long time. I know a lot of you guys on the internet have probably gone through something like this yourselves. You know, it's a pretty common injury for a lot of people who play sports. You know, you can tear your ACL playing soccer, football, basketball, baseball, tennis, whatever. I wouldn't say it's rare, but it does happen, and it's a pretty big injury. You know, outside of the Achilles, I think the ACL tear is probably the most significant one. And, you know, if you're young, you can probably make 100% recovery or even get your knee stronger than what it was before. But it is a long rehab process, I won't lie. And so I want to kind of share my story, and hopefully my experience and some of the key lessons that I've learned will also be of value for you guys. So I actually tore my ACL back in 2019. I was playing basketball in a friendly exhibition tournament with some coworkers, and, you know, came down on it wrong. I was basically, I think, going up for a rebound, and I think I crossed legs and knees with another player, and I just heard something pop, and I knew it wasn't normal, right? Back then, I didn't know if I had torn it at that time. I honestly thought that it was just a bad sprain, and so after the game, we went to go eat, and my friend asked for a big bag of ice at the restaurant, and so I was just icing my knees, and, you know, when I got home, I pretty much iced the knee, went to sleep, and then when I woke up the next morning, there was just a lot of swelling going on, and so I actually drove myself to, I think it was like a Walgreens or something, and I picked up a pair of crutches, because it was just really hard to walk on my own. But then even back then, I was thinking, hey, this is probably just a bad sprain. I'll ice it, I'll elevate it, and I'll do all the things that you normally do when you have a sprain, and it should get better in a couple of days. And it did get better, to the point where I was able to walk normally, and it got to a point where I was like, oh, let me put some pressure on it, let me put some weight on it. And so I actually went to the gym and started to work out maybe a few weeks later. But when I started to put even just a little bit of weight, even just doing like a squat or doing sort of a lunge, any sort of lower body exercise, the knee didn't feel stable, right? It felt like something was off, and I didn't know what it was. But I did not go to the MRI to get the imaging done, which I should have done. And so when I tore the ACL back in September 2019, I pretty much just left it alone. I worked out, kind of managing the weights. I even tried playing basketball again once it got to a point where I felt like, okay, I could run. And the first game that I started to play, when I felt ready, something didn't feel right. I felt like the knee was just a little bit unstable, and I just didn't feel like I had good stability whenever I was making pivots and lateral moves. And so finally, I think it was in January, a couple months later, I ordered an MRI because I was like, man, something's off. I want to get it checked out. And so I went to the MRI place, and they scanned it. And of course, when the results came back, they said, hey, you know, you have a full ACL tear, and you also have some meniscus damage, which is the ligament that's on the inside of your knee. And so I was looking around for a couple of different orthopedics. I found a good one that is pretty local to my area with pretty high reviews. And so I scheduled a surgery. The doctor asked me, hey, you know, do you want to pull a ligament from your own body, or do you want one from a cadaver, right? Because usually I think most doctors will probably ask you for an option, or ask you for a preference, you know, which one do you want? And then of course, you know, I asked my doctor, you know, what are the pros and cons with going with your own ligament versus, let's say, a cadaver? And when the doctor told me that, hey, when you pick it from your own body, there is going to be some additional healing time, because you're not performing surgery on just one spot, but on multiple spots, but that there would be a higher chance of full recovery, because your body's most likely going to recognize that ligament and have an easier time with the healing process. I ultimately went with that route, because for me, even though the recovery might take a little bit longer, it was the results that really mattered. I wanted to make sure that I could get back to normal and get back to my old self and play sports and run and, you know, lift and do all the things that I normally do now without any trouble. And so that's what I opted for. And so surgery day came. You know, my friend took me to the clinic where the surgery was going to be done, and, you know, they put me under surgery. I think went a couple hours and got home, and next couple of weeks was pretty rough. When you get ACL surgery, you pretty much can't move your knee. Your muscles atrophy, and you can't work out at all. You can't really bend your knee at all. And so for the next couple of weeks, you're just literally sitting at home. You're not really doing much, and you need people to help you. You need people to feed you. You need people to clean you, bring you food. First couple of weeks was really tough, just kind of managing all those expectations, not being able to move around. I remember coming back from the hospital, the doctor was like, hey, don't even think about taking a shower. Just wash yourself at the sink. And so the hardest part for me was not being able to shower for like 10 days. And so that was a pretty bad experience. But overall, I had friends, I had roommates, I had people around me who were able to, bring me food, bring me ice and bring me all the things that I needed to get things done. The doctor also gave me some oxycodone, which is a pain reliever, painkiller. And so that also helped a little bit. Also tried some CBD gummies and pills, which I didn't really feel too much. For you guys, I don't know if it really helped, but if it did, let me know. Once I was able to start walking again, I started to go to the physical therapist, and we started stretching. We did muscle therapy, muscle stim therapy, and slowly started to build my way back up. It was a long process, man, just to get from post-surgery to even being able to put weight on my right knee, on my right foot was a milestone. And then being able to walk on my own without crutches. And then, of course, being able to walk a little bit faster, and then even get to a point where I was able to run again. Now I'm at a point where the knee feels pretty good. I'm able to work out. I'm able to squat, maybe not my max weight, but a good amount of weight that I couldn't even think about doing before, and able to run, bike, and do 90% of the things that I normally do today. But it still doesn't feel 100% where I feel confident enough to go on a basketball court or go play tennis or play any type of sport that requires a lot of lateral movement. I think that's something where I still need a little bit more time to rehab the knee and get strong again, where I feel confident doing those things. But there are, I think, 5 key takeaways from this whole experience that hopefully can be of value for you as well. And the first lesson that I want to share with you guys is know that you are not alone. I don't know how many ACL surgeries happen every year, but I'm sure it's a lot. You're not the only one that goes through this experience, right? You go to ESPN and it seems like almost every week during the football season, someone else tears their ACL. It happens, right? And honestly, it takes a lot of force to tear that ligament. But in life, it can happen through an accident. It can happen through sports. And so just accepting it as a potential consequence of being involved in these things, I think is important. And knowing that you're not the only person in this world who's going through something like this is going to be really helpful. For me, I started to do a lot of research. I realized there was a lot of other people on YouTube who started to document their experience and share kind of their story for others as well. And so that's kind of why I decided to make this video, because I think a lot of you guys probably can also benefit from my story and knowing that, hey, if I can get through it and if I can recover from this, so can you. The second thing I learned is to be patient. It's a long journey. Some people can get back to normal within, 6 to 8 months. Others take years, right? It's a process. And depending on how diligent you are with your rehab, with your physical therapy, and, just your overall age and your overall health, it could vary. Accepting that, hey, this is going to be a marathon and not a sprint, and knowing that it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of commitment to put in the time and the resources to rehab properly, right? To do the exercises the way that the PT tells you to do it, to eat the right foods and to get the right rest. Those are all factors that I think matters and will help you during your rehab process. The third lesson that I want to share with you guys is to make sure to listen to your physical therapist. If for whatever reason you don't think they're providing the right advice, go out and get a second opinion. Go to another therapist and see if those exercises or their recommendations help. Sometimes it helps to do a lot of research either on Yelp or Google Maps and to find a therapist that's right for you. For me, I wanted to find someone that's close proximity-wise to my house, but also had a strong reputation and who also worked with a lot of patients who had gone through an ACL surgery, right? For me, that was really important. And so taking the time to really find the right PT, the right doctor, all those things matter. And you want to find someone that you can trust, someone that you feel comfortable with, someone that will give you good advice and not sugarcoat anything, and make sure that you're on the right path to recovery. The human body is a lot more resilient than we might think, right? And your body's capable of a lot of things. But if you get the wrong advice, if you don't rehab or train properly, it can lead to setbacks, right? It can lead to setbacks. It can delay the recovery process. And so you want to make sure that your mind and body are aligned and that you have the right person, the right coach, the right therapist along the way to guide you on that path. The fourth lesson that I want to share with you guys is to stay positive. No, for me, honestly, there were times when I felt pretty depressed. There were times when I was like, man, is this going to heal? Is this going to get better? Why hasn't it gotten to the point where I can do all the things that I want to do again? And there's going to be times when you plateau, even though you're putting in the time and the effort to rehab properly. And that's okay. You know, there might be setbacks along the way. I think it's important to stay positive and to not focus on the things that are out of your control, because it's just not very productive. It's not going to be useful for you. There's also days for me personally when I felt like I was plateauing or I wasn't getting better. And in those moments, I just had to focus rather than saying, hey, why can't I play basketball? Or, you know, why can't I do the things that I normally would want to do? I just had to find new ways of getting enjoyment or find new ways to train. During my rehab process, I ended up buying an exercise bike so that I could just bike at home and start to build up those muscles. And, you know, also found a swimming pool that was in my neighborhood where I could do laps, you know, because swimming is also a great way to train those muscles and get them stronger without putting a lot of impact or a lot of weight on those joints. So finding ways to train smarter is going to help you in the long run. And so lastly, the fifth thing that I've learned is to share your experience and to pay it forward. One of the reasons why I'm making this video is because I've seen so many other videos on the internet, on YouTube, of people going through the same experience. It's tough for them, right? It's tough for everyone. You know, I don't think anyone has a great experience going through rehab, going through surgery, right? It's a lot to handle. But I think when you share your experience, when you're open to other people and you join the community of people who've gone through this experience together, I think it also gives you a chance to take your mind and your focus off of yourself and maybe help someone else with their problem. You know, maybe they're having a much harder time going through their rehab than you are. And so sharing your story and giving them some encouragement and motivation can also be a blessing for them. You know, those are kind of the 5 things that I've taken away from my ACL experience. Like I said, you know, I'm still going through this journey. You know, every day it gets a little bit better, but there are days where I feel like, you know, I'm not making as much progress as I should be. But these are the 5 things that I constantly think about and tell myself, hey, you know, be patient, put in the work, put in the time, and the results will show. So that's all I got for this video. I know this was a long video, but I wanted to kind of get my thoughts out there and really share my experience and my story for you guys so that you guys could hopefully all benefit. But I would love to hear your stories. You know, if you've gone through an ACL experience, drop a comment down below and feel free to let the community know if there are other things that you've learned that would benefit other people. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.